Welcome to She Who Speaks Abundance, the podcast for women who are ready to awaken their divine power and step into a life of true fulfillment. We're your hosts, Cheryl Andrisani and Kelly Williams, two purpose-driven women who've transformed our lives through spiritual alignment, conscious mindset work, and the power of intention. Here, abundance is more than just money. It's a mindset, it's a frequency, and it's your divine birthright. Each week, we'll share real conversations, practical tools, and spiritual wisdom to help you reclaim your worth. It's time to rise into the abundant life that you were meant to live. Let's get this party started. Welcome to the fourth episode of She Who Speaks Abundance. My name is Cheryl Andrisani, and this is my friend Kelly Williams. And today we are going to talk about the second step in Neville Goddard's fundamental principles, which is called definition of aim. And this is so important in the manifestation process because unless you clearly define what you want, where you want to go, how you want to feel, what you want in your life, until you clearly define that, well, then you're kind of like just walking around aimlessly in your life. And what tends to happen is we tend to just recreate more of the same stuff that is currently happening in our lives because we live life just reacting to stuff rather than being the creators of our reality that we are. And so it really is an important step in the process because it allows us to have kind of like a North Star to aim from, right? And it gives us direction about where we want to go in our lives. And this has definitely helped Kelly and I in our lives. Welcome, Kelly. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So, do you agree that this step is like one of the most important steps in the manifestation process?
Yes, I agree. And also being very focused. You know, there was a time where I wanted all the things, and it was coming from a place of lack and being like, I want this business, I want that business, I want a house, I want a better relationship, more money. And my focus was so scattered. And when my relationship started to have issues, I really said, you know what, I'm gonna like choose one or two things that I'm gonna focus on and focus on number one, upgrading my relationship, repairing my relationship, having the dream relationship, and also finishing our house. And everything unfolded in those two areas so miraculously when I just really got focused and was like, okay, this is where I'm focusing my attention, my energy. And then, we can come back to the business, the money, all the other things that I wanted at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. A lot of people, like I know myself included, um, I just wanted to be a millionaire. And I think everybody just wants to be a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
But really, people don't realize that becoming a millionaire is only the means to get to what you actually truly want. And people don't realize that, right? They think that money is going to be the savior to all of their problems. And most definitely it does. But the real thing that we really want is more than that. It is the freedom that we believe the money will bring us. It's the security. It's the making life easy. It's like feeling happiness and joy and being able to live life the way that you want to. So it's actually not really even the money that we want. We want the feelings that are associated with what the money can bring to us, right? And I think that this is definitely something that is very helpful to understand, right? Because a lot of times we tend to try to figure out the how. How are we going to get this money? Right? And that at times will seem totally impossible. But if we focus on the feelings that we want to experience, that actually makes it a lot easier to control ourselves, right? Do you agree with that?
I agree. And, it's funny because you mentioned like we all want to be a millionaire. It's like that's the like threshold of like, I want to be a millionaire. And, that's a desire of mine as well. But it's like, that I make well over six figures, close to 500,000 a year. And then too, my husband always gives me a hard time. Why are we focusing on XYZ number? Because all of the things you mentioned that we say we want, I'm going to be a millionaire because I want freedom. I want to travel. I want to spend money without constantly checking my bank account. I already have all that. So then it's like, I have to remind myself like millionaire or $1 million in the bank account is not going to bring me, it'll bring an abundance of that, even, more so than I have now. But also, it's just important to realize like where we are now and how far we've come
Yeah.
and recognize that yes, we desire for more and that is godly, that is good, but also like yes, we can have freedom now without being like, well, if I don't get to millionaire status, I'm just not going to have the freedom that I want. Like that exact $1 million is going to be the magic key to make me happy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, do you want to just explain to our listeners what kind of business that you have, and then I'll explain what business I have that brought us to the state of financial freedom?
Sure. And a lot of people don't realize this because on my social media, I talk more about yoga and my spiritual business that I'm building and mentoring people and teaching people. But my regular business that actually pays pays all the things I want to do is a professor, and I call myself a professorpreneur because I do not fall into the traditional one full-time job and I'm happy with that. So really, even before I found Neville and all of these mindset and growth things, I had already cracked the code on stepping outside of the norm of what society says. Like you get one full-time job, you work 9 to 5, you take your 70,000 a year and you be happy with that and build a retirement. And I started out as an adjunctpreneur where I was part-time at multiple universities. And then I kind of dovetailed that into, you know, more expansive areas that, most people don't do what I do. And I do work from home. I have a lot of freedom. I'm very good at managing my time and being a very good professor while still allowing myself a lot of extra free time to be with my children, um, to chill, do podcasts, and travel, even if I don't have a vacation day. I take my computer if I need to and I hop on and help students. And so I have really all the things. I'm not lacking really at all. I just have a lot of desires, grow. So, um, yeah, I'm very blessed. And then my husband does maintenance and he does very well with that. And he's grown a lot. And we also have a couple of investment houses that we're flipping right now. And so we have a lot of different things that we have going on.
Oh my gosh, you definitely are a woman that wears many hats. Holy smokes. Well, that is so, so wonderful. And I guess that truly knowing what you wanted your life to look like has led you here to where you are now, right? Now helping other people, really expand and know their true power. It
Yeah.
was actually Kelly that reached out to me to say, "Hey, I want to do a podcast. You want to do a podcast with me?" And you know what? The fact that I wanted to do a podcast as well, just having it as another outlet to help, raise the consciousness of the world and really truly help people understand how powerful they are. Because I had no idea before I did this personal development work that this was even a thing. And my life has totally transformed as well. And now Kelly and I are just sharing this information that has blessed us and helping as many people as we can. The people that are attracted to us and become magnetic to us are our people. So thank you anyways for anybody that's listening to this podcast now, because we definitely manifested you manifested us, and the the fact that you're listening to this means that you've attracted this information to you, that you have a calling to hear it. And we just happen to be the outlet that you get to hear it from. Now, for me, my husband and I had we've all owned multiple businesses. And the latest business, which was a retail e-commerce business. It started off as a retail store selling satellite radio products. And it was funny the way that that business started in itself, because my husband was just looking for a part, which he could not find. It was a cigarette lighter adapter. And he could not find this because the company was based out of the United States, but we're in Canada, and satellite radio was just new to us. This was back in 2005. And he couldn't find it anywhere. So he's like, if I'm having this much trouble finding this one part, how many other Canadians are also having problems? So he just came upon this idea. He's like, I'm going to start importing this stuff. And we ended up being the number one independent dealer for SiriusXM in Canada. But we had a retail store, and it wasn't very busy because we were like a boutique store, right? Where it was, if you didn't want a satellite radio, nobody was coming in, right? And when we moved into our current house, which was 12 years ago, we thought, why don't we just bring the business home? Because why are we paying like I think it was $3,000 in rent at the time, plus expenses. So we brought the business home. And, that was automatically like $3,500 in our pocket just by doing that. And most of our sales were online anyways. But then in 2020, that's when COVID hit. We went strictly online. That was it. And we started selling. We expanded our retail sales channels to predominantly Amazon. We had our own website. It was eBay, Best Buy, like a whole bunch of different sources of income coming in. But, our sales were just meh. They were just enough to um, provide for our lifestyle, nothing extra over and above. And I was just tired of it. I was tired living in survival. I was tired living in scarcity. I was tired always of being worried about money. Disappointed that we were 47 years old with no savings, nothing in our retirement. And I'm like, what the hell? So that's when I found Neville Goddard's work. And what I realized is, yeah, I was operating from a space of scarcity and lack. And this is why Neville's second step definition of aim was so important because it gave me a North Star. I had realized that I was leaking so much energy into things that didn't actually matter and actually things that were not helpful to me, but kept me stuck with where I currently was. And so when you figure out what is it that I truly want, and you keep it, number one, simple and specific. So, yes, I was trying to be a millionaire, but then I realized I really actually just wanted to be financially free. I wanted to feel secure. I wanted to feel that freedom. And so, when I had determined that's what I wanted freedom, security, love, happiness, to travel, all of that. I kept that top of mind. And I started making all decisions based on that goal. So anything that came into my experience that didn't match that goal, I was like, it's a leak of my energy. It does nothing good for me. It actually hinders my progress because if I'm leaking my energy to stuff that doesn't actually matter, then that means I'm not putting my focus to what does matter, which was the freedom that I wanted to feel. So after I started really being committed, you have to commit to this, right, Kelly? You have to commit to it. Um, Things started in my world, started changing. Our sales went up. COVID hit. And I'm like, I am not going to allow COVID to, side rail me because often whenever something like that happens in our experience, we start operating again from a place of fear. And when I kept my desire top of mind, I'm like, I am not leaking my energy to that. Let me keep refocus. And it's always about bringing yourself back to what you want, right? Um, and as I kept doing that, our sales kept increasing. And then after 2.5 years, somebody planted the seed in us to sell our business because we were hitting, over $1 million in sales a year. The second year, first year we hit $1.8 million in online sales. Second year, we hit $3.6 million. And it was that year that somebody says, are you interested in selling your business? And my husband and I are like, why would we sell the business when it's doing so good? Right. But then we ended up selling. We had a number. We're like, okay, what's the number that if somebody was willing to pay us for it, what would we let it go for? And we sold it exactly for the amount that we determined that we wanted, our aim. And somebody paid us $1.8 million for that business. So this is why I am such a believer of this work, because my logical mind, if I were to try to figure it out myself, I would not have been able to even work it in my mind how it was going to happen. So, definition of aim. Did you actually, Kelly, have a specific scene that you played in your mind about what you wanted your life to look like? Or because that's one of the things that Neville says, keep it simple, create a scene that implies fulfillment and operate from that. Did you do that?
Yeah, I know the scene I created with me and my husband, the drinking coffee on the deck.
Oh,
And I just played that scene and didn't, and like you said, worked on not allowing myself to leak energy to the drama that was happening all around us. Um, and honestly, then I started thinking back to, because I said, I kind of cracked the code on success in my career and business before I ever found this work. So even when I was in college, I set goals for myself. I was in college, I was like, and I kind of like made a ladder, but I wrote down, okay, I was going to school for health information, medical records. So I was like, okay, first, I want to be a medical coder, then work myself up to HIM director, and then get my master's at some point. And I literally, and then like later looking back, I was like, I literally did everything that I wanted to do that I wrote down. I actually skipped the medical coder and as a 20 started college at 17 because I was homeschooled, graduated college at 21. By the time I was literally turning 22, I was working as an HIM director, a medical records director. And then I was going to school for my master's and I was seeing all these professors teaching online. This was before teaching online was big. About 50% of colleges were had some type of online offering. And so I got my foot in the door doing that before everybody wanted to teach online, because I saw these professors doing it and I'm like, oh, they're like working a career and then like teaching online on the side. I want to do that. So I made that my next goal. So, I was already kind of doing it before that, just having a goal in mind and like really getting focused on it and not really worrying about how it was going to happen, just kind of like looking at jobs and seeing what was out there and obviously finishing my master's. So, I was doing it before I even realized it. And I think too, like when I first found this work, I kind of got a little caught up in somehow I got caught up in the how and like overcomplicated it for a while.
Mhm.
But even now, as you were talking about the leaking of the energy, I'm having like a new level of understanding and bringing myself back to that because I'm noticing where being on social media again, where I'm leaking energy. And it's so easy to get distracted, when you're out there talking to people and you're absorbing all of these different ideas. You're like, oh, I have my aim, I have my goal. I'm super focused, sitting at myself. I know what I want and I'm imagining it, right? And you go out and all this static, people talking and getting caught up in their drama and then being on social media and all these spiritual teachers are like, like I was telling my husband, some spiritual teachers are like, well, I got my spirit guides and I'm praying to Mother Gaia and that's great if that's the game you want to play, but none of that is necessary to achieve any type of oneness with God. You are already one with God. You are God and you are creating this. So if you get bogged down in all the noise and be like, well, that person's doing this, so I need to do this, you really have to come back to yourself every day throughout the day, come back to your aim, your goal, get your mind clear. And so I've really started practicing that, like just taking time off social media, not over consuming social media. And when I am out, say I'm at a party or hanging out with friends, like really coming back to my home and silence and like being like, okay, I gotta like mental dump some of that, some of that stuff I absorbed. I gotta like let it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really important because we don't even realize that throughout the day when we're like interacting with people, it's like especially like for me because I'm an empath, right? And I was like operating from the savior mode. I wanted to save everybody. Like, oh no, this is how you should be thinking. But unless somebody truly wants to hear it, they can't hear it anyways. So it really always comes back to bringing it back to us. How are we feeling in this moment? So let me just go over the definition of aim, the steps to that. Okay. So the very first step is number one, ask yourself, what do I truly want? And you have to keep it specific and simple. Simple. So it could be for me, I'm a successful coach earning whatever amount, $50,000 a month with the most awesome clients, right? Or I'm happily married to the love of my life, or I live in a beautiful home by the ocean. And I want all those three things. The second step is to define the state that you have to embody. So, who do you have to be? What version of you would show up every day if you already had those things? Because we really do live in an attraction based universe, right? We live in a world of cause and effect. And who we are being is the cause to every effect that we experience in our world, right? So who must you be when you have that, right? And then the third step would be to create a scene that implies the fulfillment of that goal, right? So, one simple technique that Neville spoke about, which I found simple and super easy, was the congratulations technique, right? So basically, if you are wanting to manifest a dream home, right? The simple scene would be that you imagine somebody congratulating you on living in your new dream home. Congratulations on your new home. It's beautiful. And then you just say, thank you. That's it. It's so simple. We tend to make it complicated. So, this is something that he encourages us to do in SATS, which is a state akin to sleep, which is the period of time right before you go to sleep. You're lying in bed, you're comfy, you're drowsy, and but still awake. You're still conscious of what you're thinking, but just thinking of that over and over again. Congratulations on your new home. Congratulations on your new career. Congratulations on your success. And you just saying thank you and repeating that over and over again until you achieve the feeling that you want to experience, right? So Neville says, construct an event which you believe you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire, would an event which implies fulfillment of your desire. Okay. And then the fourth step would be to affirm or imagine daily from that definition of aim, from that version. You're not thinking of it, but you're making all decisions from that version of you that already has what you want. So for me, I would think, because I was doing it for money, right? If something came up in my experience where, let's just say, I wanted to buy something, I would notice that the very first thing that came into my mind was, you can't afford it, or that's too expensive. Now, it's really important, like we covered last in the first session, you observe yourself because what we believe always is the dominant thoughts that we think, right? And we always get what we believe. So I was still, when I noticed that I was still living from a state of lack and limitation, I would question saying, okay, can I really not afford it? If I really wanted it, I could buy it, right? I could buy it on my credit card if I wanted to. And then I would think, the rich version of me, would she be saying those things? Would she be saying, can I afford it? Would she be saying that's too expensive? No, she would not. So this is living from that state. How would you react to whatever situation you're going through in your life? How would you respond to it? Are you responding as the old version of yourself, the one that you want to get away from, the one that you want to transform from? Or are you going to step into that version of yourself that's already living it? And like I said, because we live in an attraction based universe, if you're showing up as that powerful being, the one living how you want to live, then you will attract back experiences that are of the same, right? And so that's really important to understand. So, living from the end and not toward it, do you have any maybe examples you can give our listeners, Kelly, about how you applied that? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know why, you were saying Neville talks about the congratulatory conversations, we call them. I guess because I like coffee, I always imagine myself coffee in my end. So another desire I've had, as you were talking about the beach, we talked about how we would love to live um on the beach, but also have mountains nearby. So I was like, ooh,
Hmm.
like the Oregon coast would be great. And then I'm like, I want like a mansion or at least a house. You know how you see on TV where they have like the huge, like high ceilings, but then it's all windows. And
Hmm.
then you could like look out and at least see like the Rocky, coming close to the beach. And so I was like, yeah, like I don't even sit here and worry about or think about like how's that going to happen or is that going to happen. It's just like a dream of mine. And then I imagine myself like walking around my living room, like doing like a business call and like sipping my coffee with my little coffee cup, and I'm like, that's it. It's
Yeah.
so easy. And we make it so complicated. And I love working with coaches and mentors, and like I said, following spiritual teachers. But sometimes we do have to just kind of take a step back and be like, let's not overcomplicate things. It really does get to be easy.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, I think that something that is really important to maybe just touch on is because a lot of my clients, they're very vague when I ask them, what do you want? And this is me too, but I ask them what they want, and they're like, I just want to be happy, right? And I'm like, okay, that's good. That's a start. But we really have to get clear on what we want. And a lot of people as well are really afraid to choose a goal because they're just afraid that they're going to disappoint themselves and that um, it won't happen, right? So they're afraid to choose an aim. So what do you say to your clients, Kelly, when they say give you responses like that?
For me, it's like, kind of like we talked about earlier, just being in that feeling now, like you have to make the choice to be happy now. When you choose to be happy now and find things to be happy about now, then you will be happy when you get the things that you desire. But if you're not happy now, and then and then you're like, well, I want $50,000, you're going to get the $50,000 and still not be happy.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
a that's a that's an issue, internal issue with not realizing who you really are and the power that you have. Um and you kind of to for me, I think that's when you need to spend some time in meditation
Hmm.
and really getting still and really acknowledging how powerful you are and that you are whole and complete right now. And like I said, you kind of have to like make a choice to be happy. And as a coach or a mentor or a teacher, we cannot flip that switch for you. I wish I could just flip the switch for everybody, but but it's almost like if you're an addict, you have to hit rock bottom and then be like, I'm so tired of this shit. Like, I'm not going to do it anymore. So, like, as humans, we become addicted to suffering. And I was there too. I mean, even after I found this work, I had a moment, when we were getting ready to move in this house and like drama and chaos, all kinds of crazy stuff was happening. And I'm like, why do I keep creating these situations that are suffering and chaos and drama? And I'm like, I'm gonna stop this shit. Like, I get to choose and I get to stop being in chaos all the time. Like, this is just me, like, either being bored or addicted to suffering.
Mhm.
It really is. When you realize it's all about you, it's only you. You are the creator. Like, nothing outside of you is ever going to make you happy until you can be happy inside yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely something that's so important and really helpful is that when we realize that everything in our reality stems from us and that our life is experience is based on how we decide to respond to all the things that happen in our experience, and that the outer world is only a mirror reflection of our inner world. That is, it's life changing because you look at your outer world and you always have the choice about how you respond to it. That is something that has been given to us, which is the free will to decide, right? We are always
Yeah.
um, available to make
Yeah.
choices. And a lot of people think, I don't have a choice. But yeah, you do. You always have a choice. And what was really important for me was the understanding that even though I couldn't change my outer world right away, right? I just kind of had to go through it. I had to see what was happening and how I attracted that. Doing a lot of self-reflection work and seeing, okay, what within me could have attracted this experience to myself. And when we really take the time to just be like, okay, I that happened because I believed this, or I gave my attention to this thing, right? Um, it's just so helpful in helping us understand who we are. And again, it's like you said, we are we're basically creatures of habit, right? And scarcity is a habit. Feeling lack is a habit. Not feeling secure in your world is a habit. And if we can separate, you know, the actual habit from the emotions that we feel because of that habit and just seeing it from a neutral point of view, oh, these are the things that I've been thinking. These are the things, this is the state that I've been allowing myself to dwell in. Well, then we can separate the triggering feelings and just start putting most of our attention towards what we want instead of what we don't want. We have to
Yeah.
put our focus on the solutions instead of the problems. And this is where people get stuck. They're looking at their 3D reality. They keep looking at their problems when really, if you keep looking at your problems, you're only going to perpetuate more of that. So we really need to be bigger than our problems, and this is why having a definition of aim really can help us pull ourselves out of that. Oh, yeah, I remember I want to be abundant. So let me put my focus on what is abundant, right? And it's actually doing the practice, doing the work. Now, for me, I don't know about you, Kelly, but I like to write things down.
Me too. And I found almost everything I've written down
It's
has
come to
come to
pass.
pass. Yeah,
Yeah.
at one point or another.
Yeah. And I think it's a powerful practice, and I think that too, it number one, it helps you release it too. To me, it's like I write it down on paper and I'm like, almost like I'm setting it in stone, putting an order in with the universe. This is what I want and I expect to get it, right? Before I used to be like, why do bad things always happen to me? I never get what I want. And I realized I had to shift that attitude. If I truly believe that bad things are always happening to me and I never get what I want, well, that's what I'm going to manifest, right? So I started saying, number one, you have to have an open mind when it comes to doing this work. Okay. We believe certain things And we have to think bigger than what we believe. There's a whole world out there that we're not even aware of. And, to me, I was thinking, what I'm currently doing now was working, but it's not working for what I actually truly want. So I have to change. And what I started doing is what I did is I got a notebook and it says, do what you love. And it has all these beautiful, sayings on there. And I basically started writing down what it is that I wanted my life experience. Like I would like go on, you know, freaking pages and pages at a time. I don't write in this every day, but if there's something that I saw out in the world, like if Kelly was doing something, I'm like, oh my God, I love her makeup. Now I'm going to start doing like my makeup like her, or, like, or so and so, lives this type of lifestyle. And I'm like, well, she's showing me what's available for me too. I'm going to write it down in my book. And the world is always showing you things that, you could, add to the things that you want in your world. We sometimes get caught up in that comparison-itis where, somebody has it, but we don't believe that we can have it too. So we don't even like make it a possibility for us. And so I used to say things, well, if she has it, then she's showing me that I can have it too, right? Instead of being envious and jealous, because that state of envy and jealousy would keep me stuck in wanting, right? Whereas if I started saying, she has it, she's actually shown me what's possible, and she created a path to get there. So all I need to do is replicate what she's doing. And even for me to become financially free, I'm like, all of these people, who are millionaires and I want to be like them, I'm like, they're showing me what's possible for me too. And I realized that I was not thinking like a millionaire. I was
Yeah.
thinking like a poor person. I was thinking like a person that was in survival mode. And when I realized this, I'm like, okay, what I need to do is I need to start thinking, acting, feeling like the way a rich person does. And as soon as I committed to doing that, things in my world started to change. I didn't become a millionaire right away. It took me 3.5 years to do that. But long before the money came into my experience, I was already feeling that way.
Yeah, you were living it already, so it really
I
wasn't.
was.
And I've heard other teachers say this too, like Lamborghini. They're like, you really wouldn't feel as much di if you're in the feeling, you're not going to feel that much different when you actually get the Lamborghini. It's just going to be like, oh yeah, now I have a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
If you're in that desperation where you're like, if I don't get a Lamborghini, I'm literally gonna die and like my time on earth is just gonna be miserable. Getting the Lamborghini is not gonna help you. Like it is an inner work process too. And it's not because, my husband and I talked about this, like you can get stuck in a loop of being like healing trauma and inner work um, and then it puts you kind of back in that state of like, you're not worthy. You're worthy and whole and perfect and part of God right now. But you've been taking on programs. Um, I always think of our body and our mind as like a computer. So it's like we've taken on these programs. We have viruses in our brain, basically, from just things we've experienced in this matrix reality, and then we're like, oh, like I can't do this because everybody makes money a certain way. And so we have to like cleanse ourselves and rewire our brain um to believe and be able to hold the things that we want and learn how to be happy and learn how to not be addicted to suffering. So it's very easy, but it's also a process. So you have your aim, you have your goal. That's unwavering. But on the bridge of incidents, which Neville talks about, yours was the 3.5 years, and there's things that I'm manifesting now that like were in my um desires 2 years ago. So in between that time, you are doing the purging and the cleansing of the old programs so that your subconscious can just put you in that desired path, that reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you make it a little bit more technical and less emotional, for some people that helps. So there's different tools and different ways for everybody to kind of like get to that state. And like I said, it is easy. Like we shouldn't overcomplicate it, but your conscious mind is going to put up blocks. Like you said, clients who come to you and are like, well, I just want to be happy. Um, when they start to choose to be happy, the 3D might throw things at them that's going to really make them unhappy.
Mhm.
And then they have to solve and be like, I don't care what gets thrown my way. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to choose to be happy and choose to not feel stuck and go with the flow, like what's it going to do to you? Like it could either kill you or make you homeless. I guess that would be like the two worst things that could happen to us on earth. Well, we're all going to die anyway.
You know,
So why
that is
are
the
we
point.
living in fear? Like we're always like, if this happens, it's going to be the end of the world.
I know that it sounds so bad, but I used to think that, and I actually still do think that. I'm like, well, back in 2019, I lost three very important people in my life, and that actually became the catalyst for me fully living because I realized I was given a gift that those three loved ones did not have the opportunity to live. And I thought, I am not going to waste and squander my life, currently living the way that I was living. um and that was the catalyst. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to die anyway, so I'm going to make this life experience the absolute best that I can. And at the time, I didn't know how the hell that was going to happen, but I was just determined to figure it out, right? If other people could figure it out, then I could figure it out too. But that became my part of the reason why I was so committed to doing this work was because, you know what, I am going to honor, it was my best friend, my father-in-law, and an aunt who was like a mother to me. They all died, and I'm like, I'm gonna live my best life because they would want that for me, right? They would not want me to live in grief, and they would want me to make the most of this life experience. So that's what I did. But you really said some really important things about us living from old programming. And this is why the very first step of Neville's fundamental principles, which was a self observation part, is really important, right? You have to understand what program you are currently living from and then determine, is that actually what I really want? Do I want to continue living from this program? Or can I upgrade because I have new goals in my life now? So, what new program must I install within myself, which is pretty much the beliefs that we think, right? Our old beliefs no longer serve us. We've got to upgrade our beliefs. And so that is actually very, very important to understand that, you know what? We learn from repetition. And when we realize that the things that we operate from and live from don't align, well, then we got to repeat the new program, what we actually want, until that becomes the new dominant program, right?
And yes,
So
I was going to mention this earlier. The repetition, it made me remember that the idea that Neville Goddard taught about mental diet. And that kind of goes back to us talking about leaking our energy and like being around a lot of people or being on social media. And then like you let thoughts creep in, like, oh, well, look at what that person's doing. Look at what that person posted. And it's to clean up your mental diet, just like cleaning up your eating diet. Like you have to keep coming back, coming back, coming back, coming back, and being like, that thought doesn't serve me. That thought doesn't serve me. Okay, bring my focus back. And like I said, sometimes it is good to sit in meditation, even if you're sitting out in nature for 5 minutes and just in quiet and see what thoughts come up.
Mhm.
And like I said, if you're like not happy at all, then that's a really good start with your self-inquiry of like, why am I not happy? And like, what would make me happy? What do I
Mhm.
need to change to make myself happy? Like, am I
Mhm.
not standing in my own power?
Right.
Um, so yeah, cleaning up your mental diet and your old programs, it's repetitive. Like, I've been doing this over 2 years and I still have to clean up my mental diet because there's still going to be all of these things swirling around us, the technology and the people and the job, if you work at a job or even a business, if you have clients, they're bringing their problems and you like take that on, unless you're
Mhm.
really grounded. So then you have to come back and like clean up your own mental diet after like absorbing all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, another thing that you said, which is actually the basis that we should all lay down this foundation of who we truly are. The fact that we were born whole and complete already because we all come from the same source, even though, we're different people living different lives, different experiences. We all come from this one source. And call it whatever you want. I call it God. I had a very bad relationship with God growing up, but I've healed that, and it's been a process. But what I realize is that God always says yes to us. But what are we saying that we want? And I realized that God was always saying yes to my stress because that was a state of being that I was predominantly occupying. And so, if I wanted to have a better life experience, well, then I had to cultivate that feeling of freedom and happiness, love, security within myself. That way, God would say, yes, you can have that instead. And we just aren't aware of what signal we're sending out or what we're asking for. But God's answer is always yes to us. So it's really important that we stay on track and keep our desire top of mind. Number one, our desires are all gifts from God. And so we have to keep that top of mind and really always constantly bring ourselves back to that aim. No matter what is happening around us in our world, always remember that we are children of God. We are one with this power that gave us a free will to always decide how we show up in this world, and and always bring it back to our desires. So anyways, we're coming up to an hour. Any last words, Kelly, before we hop off this call?
I mean, I think we covered it really well and we gave a lot of tips to really break down these concepts can be complex. And Neville really is one of the best teachers of all time of like creating how you create your own reality, right? But he did live, in the 1940s or whatever. He lived a long time ago, and really to find some of his lectures now, even with YouTube, can be a little bit difficult. And the language that he uses for some people can be difficult to understand. So I think it's great that there's people like us that are able to break down these complex topics in a way
Mhm.
that's really simple. And there's other great teachers out there as well that break these down. And really that's my desire more so than coaching is just to teach people these concepts. And maybe one day Cheryl and I will have a little master class where we'll have a group that will come like actually, really like go through different situations. I would love to. That's something that I'm manifesting. So,
Done. It's done.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's, and being a professor, I love to teach and I love to talk. So I'm just so happy that we're here and able to discuss these things. It's upgraded me and I think it's upgraded you as well, just us having
Yeah.
these conversations.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Because I started off, well, number one, I always wanted to become a teacher. When I was a little girl, I wanted to become a teacher, but truly, I didn't think that I was smart enough. So now the fact that I'm living this life where I'm teaching other people, just sharing my story. That's how I've been helping people. And people really resonate with that is the storytelling because they can see themselves a bit in my story. And, I know that that's something for me that's really that I really love is how, what was that person thinking? What did they do? How did they react? Like, I want to give me all the details. I want to
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
right? And that's why I love autobiographies and learning about people's stories. And I really love the hero's journey. And I think that we're all pretty much experiencing that hero's journey. So I think it just by us sharing, it really gives people hope, right? That it is available for them too. And most definitely it is
yes,
because, I was a doubter at first. I was a doubting Thomas. And now I just opened up. I'm like, experimented with it, opened up my mind and just say, okay, I'm going to try it. Let's see what happens. And, the experimenting with all of these, beautiful spiritual teachers has really opened myself up to a totally different world than what I was living 5 years ago. So, yeah, thank you so much, Kelly, for joining me. Next week, we will talk about the third step in Neville's fundamentals, which is detachment. And that's going to be a good one because we literally have to detach from our 3D reality. And that is a step that a lot of people have difficulty with. So we'll break the concepts of that down. So, Kelly, I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me today. Love you so much. And we will talk to everybody next week. Thanks for
love
joining.
y'all.
Okay, bye.